when it dropped. Oh, here we go. It's me, your boy Swissley, and I am here to talk to you today about world eaters. Yeah, those warhounds, you might call them. They got angry. They did a thing in the heresy, and they got angry, and now they're scattered all over the universe, trying to kill people and things and stuff. I hope that's a good enough introduction for this episode of Bloodwatch. I am kindly and most wonderfully joined by the wonderful Aarron Wilson. Aarron, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, David. Good to be back on something like this with you. Just thinking after your introduction, maybe they should be called like the Karens.
The Karens, yeah. Very cool. Aaron's coming to us all the way from the United States of America. How are you enjoying the States since you moved over there, Aaron?
Yeah, it's been good. It's definitely been a very different culture shock in a way to going to different events. Like again, it's like pairings aren't until the morning of. So we're used to getting them like in the week beforehand, so there's none of that procrastinating. But yeah, it's been good so far. A lot of GW layouts is sort of the go over here.
Very cool. Well, let's get into that actually. Let's get into that a little bit because I think a lot of people would be interested. So, how many events have you been to over there since you started? Or since you moved over?
I have been to 4 events since I've been
4 events. This is Aaron, by the way. Aaron loves an event. How many RTTs versus GTs?
I have been to 3 RTTs and 1 GT.
And this is before you even got a car?
Yes.
You animal. All right. And yeah, so that's one of the things you noted was so in the UK you get your parents generally 2 days and maybe a day before the event, so that you can prepare. But you're saying they come through on the day of the event.
Yeah, like when you're there at the event on the morning of. So if it says that round 1 kicks off at 9, you'll get it at 8:59.
Very cool. Is there any other changes or any other differences that you'd pull out?
No, I mean I think overall, and you're definitely starting to see it more in like the smaller GTs and RTTs in the UK. It's been like that for a while. So compared to them, I guess it's pretty similar. But compared to the larger ones, like there's a lot better prize support.
Okay, interesting.
There's always things like everyone gets something. There's like round prizes. There's like little tidbit gifts. I think last time I went, I got I came third. I got a $40 voucher for the store, and then I got a little set of the standard stratagem tokens, so I can put down what everyone's doing, and like battle shock tokens all 3D printed off.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
And is that reflected in the ticket price, or is the ticket price relatively the same as the UK?
Ticket price is probably cheaper. I mean, like what's the cost of
25 quid?
Okay, so maybe about the same. Maybe it's like 25 quid, $25 for a RTT, and I think it was $45 for the GT.
Oh, nice, cool. And is it true that all American players are worse than British players, Aaron?
No, it's not.
No.
That's a fallacy. It's the same as everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think like you can say that you could come from the US and say, well, English players are worse, and you could go to a GT and face players that aren't as good as you. But then you could also hit people like, I don't know, yourself, Brian Seep, or anyone. Like it's the same as everything. It's all who you come down to. I do think there's, and maybe it's because of the RTT side, but I've definitely seen a lot more people that go for the love of their army than more of a tactical, gamey side of it.
That's a very well answered question. Well answered answer there. Very politically correct. I don't think you'll have people outside your door waving sticks and pitchforks.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Very cool. All right. Well, hopefully I'll be coming over to see Aaron. We're just having a conversation before we went live. I'm hopefully trying to get over for Nova. We will see. Well, actually, if you are from the United States of America and you've been to Bay Open and Nova, please comment and tell me which one's better, because I was interested in going to the Bay Open because I've not been to that side of the States before, so that'll be very interesting. But Aaron seems to think that Nova would be cooler because it's more of a all-encompassing exhibition, right? With loads of different games and stuff. Which, when you go to any of these events where they have different stuff going on, you just play 40k and then never look at the other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like if you look at it, probably the Bay Open's probably got the same. It's probably got a load of stuff as well. It's just like when you hear people speak about it over here, Nova feels more of a destination thing that you do go and do. It's like it's one of the big old events in the US. It feels like
Okay, very cool. And Nova isn't LFG. No, what's it called?
FLG.
FLG, is it?
Nah,
It's a
no,
separate thing.
yeah,
And they use GW terrain.
I think so. Yeah, I think
Oh,
it
in
is.
which case I'm in. I'm in. I'll just go there. I just want to play GW terrain, man. That's all I want. That's all I want in my
I
life.
I think FLG plays GW terrain now.
Do they?
Yeah, yeah. So the Cherokee Open is GW terrain.
Oh, very nice. And if you are going to the Cherokee up and go and say hello to Aarron, he will be
Yeah,
there.
I will. Yeah, come
Will
and
you
say
be
hello.
taking World Eaters, Aarron?
I will be. Yeah.
Yes, very cool. All right. Well, tell us about your list in a minute. We'll get on to the actual show, guys. We are going to talk about World Eaters and how everything's kind of panned out since January. One of the things I think is very cool about the game at the moment is no one at the start of January knew where the meta was going. Everyone had an idea, but there were so many different variables that have just been inputted into the meta that no one really had an idea. For example, we went to Nottingham. Aaron flew over from the States, and I came up with a vessels list that I wanted to try because I wasn't really inspired by anything, and I thought, you know what, vessels sounds kind of fun. Let's see if we can make it work. Aaron came with his Berserker warband, and we both actually came out with the 3-2, didn't we?
We did. Yeah.
Which was a lot of fun. Actually, it was a very good event. Um, I mean, I came a couple of places higher than Aaron, but we won't mention it. Right. Anyway, next, moving on. We've actually got one of the lists from that. We're going to go over in a minute. So, what's happened in the meta? So, obviously, there was about 600 games have been played in January with World Eaters. About 400 of them have been Berserker Warband, and about 200 and a bit of them have been vessels. And overall, we've had a 49% win rate with World Eaters, so right, nicely nestled in the middle. I think some people said they were going to be really strong. Other people were like, well, we're not sure. And actually, it's kind of bought out, pretty nice and even in the middle. We also make up about 4% of the player population, which, for context, is pretty much in the middle as well. So, I mean, they're kind of batting their averages. Are you surprised by any of that, Aaron? Do you think that it's about right?
No, no. I think it's about right. I think the way that the meta has sort of shifted, sort of pushes it toward this. I think the fact that it's definitely been a lot more hostile towards big monster units like Angron, and then there's definitely been a push into other lists having lots of units in transports, and that's
Yeah.
definitely something that World Eaters sort of struggle with in their standard builds. So I think that makes sense for this. Is why I don't think they've gone to be stronger, and they've sort of held their way in the middle.
Oh, very cool. I mean, let's get into it already, right? The new meta's about to come. Eldar is about to hit. I think is Eldar in play for Cherokee?
I'd have to check the rules cut off. I think it would be because
I think it is.
it's already out, isn't it? Is it out this weekend?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so I think the cut off. Yeah, I think the rules cut off might be Monday or something. But
Well,
yeah,
how do you feel like? I mean, when Guard come out as well, how do you feel like World is a place to do in that meta where Guard's going to be knocking around? Eldar is probably going to be some kind of weird gatekeeper.
I don't think that into a like same skill level based opponents, I don't think World Eaters are going to like Eldari. I don't think because of they've got access to some fight first, they've got access to anti-infantry, like a big bomb of dev wounds, and then they've got the Dark Reapers that have all got the damage 3 output, and I do think it doesn't. I think being able to, because Eldari tend to not like you running and pressuring them too much.
Yeah.
But I think if played in the right way, it's not going to go as well for World Eaters as we'd initially sort of think. So I think that's going to be quite a tough matchup. I haven't seen what the new guard builds are like, so I'm not sure how that would make a difference at the moment. It's reasonably, I'd say, sort of 50-50. Again, can be a lot more difficult if they've got the transports and the catachans and stuff like that in it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna. I think in the way that we currently build lists with lots of big hammer units, I think that's where it's going to struggle. I think World Eaters could probably benefit from a bit more MSU style when it comes down to those matchups because what Guard do is delete a unit really well when they come back from reserve. Will come down from reserves, and if you're on an objective, They absolutely murder whatever that is. And then Eldari are great, as you say, with all those different weapons at probably picking off singular units. But I would be interested to see, if you split up all the 6-man Exalted into 3-mans, it'd be quite interesting to see how that would go. But yeah, anyway, bit of conjecture there.
Yeah.
So both detachments' win rates are actually relatively even as well. So Warband has a 49% win rate and Vessels had a 48% win rate. So that settles it, right? It's just Vessels are not as good as Warband.
Well, I do think it is, and well, also to put into that, the Warband's played almost twice as many games, so that's even.
Yes, it's a stronger data set, and I imagine Vessels. I imagine Warband has a greater number of lesser. How do you say it? Players who aren't as great, right? Whereas Vessels, I think, would be attracting the top end of players.
Yeah.
So you've got people like Josie Cartwright who's taking it, and some of the lists we're going to go through today.
Yeah, and I definitely think Vessel's got stuff there, but I do think it's, to be really competitive, I think it's very, very different in building it.
High skill ceiling, I would say, having played it, and I got nowhere near that ceiling. I think it's got a higher skill ceiling for sure. Whereas Warband, I mean, I've seen people play Warband and win loads of games just by full yeeting and just, pushing. You're always giving yourself a puncher's chance if you just push, right? Whereas Vessels, you just can't do that.
Vessels gives you the opportunity to do that yeet more reliably because you can choose the units to have the advance and charge.
But with less impact, that's the thing. So I found you only did it when your opponent really had messed up deployment or had underestimated your ability, the ability to what you can do. But yeah, no, quite interesting. All right, here's the win margin. So for context again, as Aarron just pointed out, Vessels has a lower percentage of games. So theirs is going to look a little bit more disjointed and kind of like, more like rounded numbers. Whereas Warband has a greater sample size, so it looks a little bit more evened out. So what we're looking at here, if you don't know, this is what Vessels players tend to win, and Warband players tend to win by or lose by. So for example, you can see in Vessels at -5, it'll say 8%. So that means 8% of Vessels matchups lost by 5 points. And you can see that further up, 75, 1% of Vessels games was a 75-point win, which I assume their opponent died halfway through the game and just was needed to be taken to hospital. But one of the things, I mean, I love these kind of data sets because I think it's really interesting to see. It really tells a story. More so in things like Tyranids, where every detachment wins in a different way. Whereas Vessels and Warband here, it's actually quite similar. You've got a lot of close games at -5% and above 5%. And even in Warband, 8% of games at a 5% win, 5% of 5% loss. I think then, though, it kind of evens out and it goes reasonably, at a reasonable salience all the way down. I think Vessels is a bit more disjointed. There's a lot of like 30s and 30s to 45 to 50 even, where maybe someone's just done that second turn full yeet and just kept their opponent from scoring anything else.
Yeah, and I think like we said, you've got the potential to like just really full yeet whenever you need to because you've got the right reliability, and it definitely shows you that they've got a couple of like higher wins here, but it's sort of overall it sort of looks like they generally get the sort of same sort of losses, same sort of wins. It's not that too not that different, but it definitely looks like Warband is able to pull out a close game more often than the Vessels can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think. Well, actually, I slightly disagree. It's hard to say really because the losses are very similar.
Yeah, but they win more close games than Vessels do, and they've got more games played, and
absolutely.
It looks like they're able to just pull it out a bit more.
Which I suppose would indicate that it's a high skilled player who's just in singles, just trying to win the game.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter by how many you win. Did you win the game? So I think that's fair to say. That's a fair point. Very cool. All right. And then this is the event record. So Vessels has, so this is, if you don't know, the number of games at the bottom is from 1 to 6, and then you've got a percentage of players who have done that. So, for example, in Vessels, 34% of players have won 2 games at an event, and same for Warband. You can see across, and this tells another interesting story in that a lot of Vessels players are hitting that 2 game barrier and just going okay, and not being able to then push further. Whereas Warband, with and again this is with a lot more games, equals 3 game wins is equal to 2 game wins. So that's very reasonable. You expect more people to win 2 and 3 games, right? Just because of the averages. But they then also have a slightly more amount of players who have won 4 games, and then they have 5 and 6 as well as. So it just shows you that Warband is actually crossing the line where maybe Vessels has this 4 game barrier. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I do, and I wonder if like a lot of these numbers here that are popping up, and some of the close games that we saw in the numbers on the last slide are down to the stratagem for making the objective sticky when you get killed on it from shooting. Like just stealing those extra points of primary and stuff like that, pushing it over the edge, and maybe that's the adjustment that needs to be found for Vessels to pull in those numbers.
Yeah, not being able to stick an objective just because you died on it, it hurts. Don't get me wrong, I actually quite enjoyed the sticky objective stratagem when you could make it happen, or when you could make it work. It was pretty good. It just not as good as dying on them.
Like, being able to chuck some spawn out and go, you've got to kill it. If they have to kill you and shoot it, and then you get to sticky it, and then they have to actually physically come towards you to sort of address the problem, which is obviously what you want from World Eaters.
Absolutely. All right. So then I've added this one in terms of... So one of the things is that couldn't really jump out, really, is who these guys are better at beating versus the others, right? So does Vessels have a different, better matchup versus, I don't know, a lot of people say it's, the anti-shooting detachment, whereas Warband is a little bit more flexible, I suppose, or more all-comers. And then what I've done is I've put total just so you can get an idea of how it's doing. So yeah, I've took out any faction with less than 20 games because it was really at that point you're just guessing really. And even this is a small sample size considering you'd like to look at this at the end of a 3-month period really. But I think this kind of can give you some indicative games. So we'll quickly run across. If we look at Guard, for example, Vessels has a better win rate versus Guard than Warband does. Okay, that kind of makes sense. Tau, both. I mean, everyone likes playing Tau at the moment. They pretty much suck. I very much enjoy it. I mean, I remember 9th edition when they would haunt my dreams, and now, it's just great. It's just lovely. Nids, so you can see that, Vessels has a slightly better game into Nids, into Necrons. Oh, what I've done actually, I should point this out. I've broadly speaking put shooting matchups on the left and combat matchups on the right, and in the middle is kind of a mix. It's very broad. I kind of just chuck them around a bit because I don't, it goes by detachments. If you go into detachments, then you can really pull out Necrons as being combat if you wanted, but by the by. So yeah, it does seem like, broadly speaking, Vessels does have a better game into those shooting matchups. And then when we get to the combat, it's very more up and down. We can see in the mirror, funnily enough, they get battered. Orcs, actually, they have a better game into. Demons, they have a better game into. I mean, again, smaller sample sizes, perhaps. Space Marines, it's about right. Blood Angels, I know that Blood Angel matchup is not very easy. Actually, the combat one's coming out not bad for Vessels, come to think of it.
Yeah, because GSC is quite surprising to see that overall.
Well, I think you have more units in Vessels, right? So you have more bodies, and then therefore you screen better. You can, you've put that unit over there, so I can't get to it. Okay, I guess I'll just press advance and charge this turn. Also in the Bios Antique, you can just press fight on death.
Yeah.
And then that's quite nice as well. So see, I think Vessels actually, having that option to just press fight on death on a forward up is also pretty handy in these combat matchups. But Funnily enough, though, Vessels does have the same win rate as Warband pretty much, but we're seeing some of these matchups really kind of stand out. But I do find it hilarious that like Warband has like a bigger brother to Vessels, almost just batters it. It's like, no, you don't win this game, and significantly as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're interested in any matchups, guys, this is the chart to look at. And by the way, if you are looking for any of this data, it's all on StatCheck. So go and check out StatCheck. All right, so let's look at some lists. I've pulled out 4 lists that I found very interesting. There's some lists that I haven't pulled out that like won events. There's one in St. Neots where a chap won with a Helldrake, but it was essentially, I know, mate, I know. What?
I mean, that's vibes. That's vibes taking a Helldrake.
Yeah, and the rest of it was like pretty much meta, then a Helldrake. Sure. But yeah, so I thought I'd bring out some of the more interesting lists because everyone knows like the standard World Eaters Warband list, for example. So these are all singles. We don't talk about teams because teams are a little bit up and down. Like, there's very much inconsistency with teams that may be built for a specific purpose. So what I want to do is show you the lists that are doing well in singles. We've got Charles Craig, which is quite funny if you're someone from the UK. Sounds like a complete smeghead. But Charles Craig, very cool list here. He's gone Vessels of Wrath. He went 4-1 at the Hammer in the New Year GT in Washington. He took Aarron in Vessels, so there's already an interesting take. Good Lord Invocatus, and then here's the spice: 3 winged demon princes. What a chad! One with the Arch, Arch Slaughterer, which will improve the armor penetration characteristic of melee weapons equipped by the bearer by 1. And if they are your Vessel of Wrath, which they probably will be in this detachment, in this list, improve the damage characteristic by 1 as well. We've then got another one, and he went, I still want another enhancement. I want the Vox Diabolus, and that every time it kills a unit or a unit dies near it, on a 4-up, they get a CP. Honestly, what a terrible, terrible enhancement, right? I mean, that is just bad. But people take it. It's in a lot of these lists. But maybe you do have 10 points left. You just take it. You know what? I would say 10 points left. 20 points, that is. Let me read that for you. Worldies model only. Each time the bearer's unit destroys an enemy unit with a melee attack. So there's your hoops you've got to jump through. Roll 1d6. Adding 1 to the result if the bearer is a Vessel of Wrath. On a 4-up, you get a CP. So you get a 3. So you pick something in your command phase. Then it goes and kills something. And then you roll a dice. And on a 3-up, you get a CP.
It's just got to be leftover points.
Yeah, it's got to be. I can't imagine like building around that. And then he's got another winged demon prince with gateways. So he just goes through vehicle. Gateways is low-key very good. Go through walls, but you can also go through screens. It's so cool. When you just go, you want? I guess I can just walk through that. Although that never happens, you tend to tell them and say, "Look, you can put them there, but I just walk through them." And like, are you really slow? No, I moved 12.
Yeah, he can fly over them anyway.
Well, that's a really good point, Aarron. He can just fly over them anyway. It's a really good point.
But yeah, for going through the walls, it's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in terms of the rest of the army, 10 Jackals, 6 Exalted, 3 Exalted, 2 Spawn, and 2 Predator Destructors. Predator Destructors is an interesting choice. That's the autocannon one, right? Yeah. I mean, they are pretty good. I was thinking about buying a couple, but I know for a fact they're going to get Legends next edition, aren't they?
Nah, they can't. They're too normal.
Are they?
They're too standard of machine.
They're very little, though, aren't they? You could have fit 2 Prime Armish Marines in one of those.
No, but I think they'll hang around.
I don't think so. Well, anyway, Craig went into with this Winged Demon Prince list into Hypercrypt and pretty much battered it. Actually, 90-30 is a big 30-point win there. And I think I can see that happening here. I think you've got enough shooting to do some damage. They don't like it when you put it up them. Essentially, they don't like an aggressive player. So I can see that. This one though. Bananas. 13 War Dogs. That's impressive, Charles. Like, to go after 13 War Dogs and smash them.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that the Pred Destructors might take it a couple, but I guess that it's the fact that probably each of the demon princes and
You know what
potentially
they hit? Being melted in the face.
Oh yeah, but if you hit them first, they
Yeah,
probably
I don't
still
even
get
think they do.
bleed.
So they got 6 attacks, I think, right? Hit on 2s. Strength 10,
36.
so you're wounding on 4s, but you can spend a CP to reroll it.
Yeah,
And then it's -2, 3 damage.
yeah, it's pretty wild.
Man, my hat off to you, Charles. Unless it was maybe, I don't know, maybe it could have been Purge 4 or something, I don't know. But even then, it's
Yeah.
baller, baller.
If it's tabled him to get the 30 to prevent the other opponent only getting 36, it's massive
It's a
table.
table, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. No, very cool. Well done to him. And then he went into a solar list. It was quite cool, actually. I had loads of Witch Seekers, which I thought was quite interesting. So it was like Dreadnoughts, bikes, and then like maybe 20. They're in units of 4, aren't they? So
Yeah, you get 4 or
16 Witch
5.
Seekers. So it was like Witch Seekers and then the other ones that have bolt guns.
Yeah,
Um,
prosecutes.
that's the one. So 85-62 again, another strong win there. Although I think that was probably, on paper an easier matchup than the 13 War Dogs anyway.
Yeah.
Then, we saw that Vessels have that good matchup into Guard and Triple Dawn Combined Regiments. Not an easy four to go into, but I reckon once you've move blocked them or you've got right into them, I think the Triple Rogel Dawn is such a trap. It sounds really powerful, right? If you tag one and it can't see anything else, it is not shooting its blast weapons, which is all the good ones. Really interesting.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, looking at it, I think that's what gives Vessels the edge over like the Guard and stuff like that, is being able to go and get into them turn 1, or on turn 2, whenever they need to, having that just go button.
Absolutely. I mean, all these Winged Demon Princes moving 12, then advance, then charge. Like it's far. It's far.
Yeah, and I think that I would guess this was on GW terrain as well.
I imagine so. Yeah.
So like you can hide your Winged Demon Princes behind obscuring terrain and then fly straight through them because they've got the lower walls.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a lot easier to use them compared to things like UKTC.
I imagine you play some other faction, right? And you just like, oh, I've got World Eaters. What's in the list? 3 Winged Demon Princes.
You'd be like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. What does this even do? Yeah. I mean, very cool. And then we then went into our 6th game. Charles is trying to get the win here, and unfortunately, he does miss out on the 5-0. He went into a tactical brigade with Zodgrod and the 20 Gretchen, which I think is a combo I want to hear more about, really. Because tactical brigade is very good. Zodgrod and the Grot are very good. And then, yeah, I mean, that seems like a tough matchup, to be fair. So a 74-93 win isn't even that.
I do think Orcs are particularly bad, I think, for World Eaters as a whole when they've got the transports going. If you're not set up to take out transports, then it becomes very difficult because you've only got the one activation. You can take out their transport, but then they just get out and then they get to charge you.
I can't remember too much about this list. I think it had the 20, it had Zodgrod, and then it had 2 10s of Gretchen as well. So I think there's probably a lot of like screening. Please don't come near me while I shoot you.
Yeah, because what is it? Zodgrod gives them
Scout
9?
Scout 9, yeah.
9, and then it makes them movement 12 in the war turn as well.
So daft, isn't it? So good. So you just go and stand in front of them, and even Winged Demon Princes can't necessarily. You can screen out a Winged Demon Prince potentially, so from landing. So no, very cool. Well done to Charles. I think that's a really admirable result with a very, very cool list. All right, let's get on to the next one. This is Mark Davies, back over in the UK, with also Vassals of Wrath 4-1 at the Brawl GT, and that's in Poole. If you don't know where Poole is, South Coast. Right, and much more. I didn't know what it was. I had to Google it. So we've got Aarron, Lord of Achaeus, the Arch Slaughterer Juggerlord. So that is my favourite place to put the Arch Slaughterer enhancement.
Yeah, same.
And then more with Vox Diabolus. Again, you're right. It must be the points left over. We've all built World Eaters lists and been like, hang on, 35 points. What do I do with 35 points? He's got the 10 Jackals. He's got 2 times 10 Berserkers, 1 Rhino, which again, that's how I think is the best way to do it. Just having 1 Rhino for the 20, and then 6 Exalted, and then 10 Terminators. So again, Aarron showing up in a Vessels of Wrath list. He's just that good of a data sheet. 10 Terminators and 6 Exalted. So 10 Terminators is a vibe, Aaron. What's your thoughts on Terminators?
So I think it's the 10 Terminators is being able to have that many bodies together. So like one of the things, like again, if you don't have the shooting with World Eaters, something you definitely suffer from is having to go into something that's got to fight first.
Yeah.
And a lot of units that have got to fight first will maim an exalted 8-bound unit and make it so that you've got a couple left, but they're not going to kill the unit in return, and then they'll come back and finish you off in the following turn. Whereas having 10 Terminators, they might get 3 to 5 of them. They're not going to wipe 10 Terminators, and you're more likely to be left with enough to actually then wipe out the squad back, because most of the
Well,
fight first aren't multi-wound.
yeah, not only that, the Terminators get better. Once one of them's died,
Yeah,
one of them's dead, and then when half of them are dead, it annoys me when half of them are dead. It's like, oh, now I get even better, but it's like, ugh. Yeah, it's a shame actually, because I'd quite like to take 5-man Terminators, but they're just really crap with that rule.
yeah. I think if you're going to take them, you want them in 10s, because then they give you
Absolutely.
something that the exalted don't give you, or the normal 8-bound don't give you.
No, totally agree. Totally agree. I do like the 5-man is quite nice, like as a rapid ingress teleporting vibe, but again, they're just not strong enough to warrant the point cost on them, really, when you could just have 3 exalted. So yeah, no, very cool here. And then so let's look at the lists you went into. So Eldari, so similar to Guard and the other army we talked about, where they just don't like being charged, or getting into.
Yeah.
So an 83-46 is a very solid win. I imagine it was shake it off and repeat with Star Shatter. And Aaron might be smiling there because I lost the Star Shatter with my vessels because I was a bit too scared of it. I think if you are going to go into it into an army like that with vessels, don't be scared of it. Make them wipe your army out in a turn. Bet you they can't, as long as you hide them and do it reasonable. Then he went into a scary Liberator assault group. So it had 2 Vindicators in there and all sorts of different things. And that was an 88-67 win. I reckon that'll have been a really, really hard matchup for Mark, but well done to him there. And then he went into Gulliman's Gladius with a 99-59. So again, not an easy matchup. But we get to the last game, and it's Aaron's other army trips up the World Eaters player again with an 88-29 loss. So this one was Warhorde with Gaz and 12 Tank Busters is the thing that I kind of pulled out. It was quite interesting. You know more about that matchup. What do you reckon happened?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's the same again. It's like you've got the Warhorde, you've got like 3 to 5 trucks in there that's got the tank busters in, so they're shooting like loads of 3 damage shots at you, and then obviously you've got nothing that can pop the transports from range, so it just ends up being very, very difficult unless you're able to perfectly sort of get the right moves in place to be able to stagger your charges in so that you can pop it with one and pile in with the second and stuff like that. It
It's
becomes
easier
very,
said
very
than done, isn't
difficult.
it?
Yeah, it becomes very, very difficult with them. I think sort of a Warhorde list that's in trucks with decent shooting and obviously combat, I think, is one of the more difficult matchups for World Eaters as a whole at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, there all the Vessels of Wrath lists that are pulled out. So there's only 2 of each because otherwise we'll be here all night. Let's look at Ryan McMullen's Berserker Warband. So this was at the Nottingham GT that Aaron and I were both at. He went 4-1. He was the best performing World Eaters player at the event. He went with Angron, Lord of Achates, Moore with Berserker Glaive, 10 Jackals, 10 Berserkers, and a Rhino. 3 8-bound, 2 times 3 Exalted, 6 Exalted, and 2 Spawn. This is your classic Berserker Warband list, broadly speaking. I think it was it Anthony Vanilla that started this, except maybe without 6 Exalted. I think it maybe was all. Oh, I could be wrong.
It looks pretty similar. There might be a small difference with the additional Spawn and Jackals on this one.
Yeah, but I mean, it is very, very good, right? It's a super strong list. Ryan went into Chaos Knights round 1, 95-49. So I mean, a solid win there. And you can see if this was a Vessels of Wrath list, like we said in that previous list that was Vessels of Wrath, the Chaos Knight matchup is quite scary, but you can absolutely see Berserker Warband just fucking smashing it through that, really. So a good strong win there. Guard, And then went into guard at 93.82, so a closer win, but still a strong win. Then went into dangles, and this was where he got his loss in 83.100. Sorry, I haven't got the list information here, but it was I think it had Deathwing Knights, which again really stunt your damage too.
Yeah, they're another big problem, which is like why, like we'll get into it later, but why we've sort of preferred looking into having a bit more anti-elite / transport taking down and shooting in our lists.
Yeah, absolutely. But then, unless he goes into a 6++ his very own Ben Pritchard, in which case he just batters. He just wins by 6 points or 5 points. It's all right.
Yeah,
Ben,
very,
ben
very
doesn't
close
watch
game.
anything that's not about Dark Angels. We'll be fine. So no, that was again. It looks like a close game. That if I remember rightly, I think Ben told us about this, and they might have run out of time, but I can't remember. And then he got into.
It
It
looks
looks
like
it.
it, doesn't it? Yeah, it looks like it was
That's
a tight game. It probably got to turn 3 or 4.
And then Gulliman's Gladius turns up again, but again, World Eaters do it over with a 76-66 win. So a good 10-point win there. Happy days. Any thoughts on this before we move on, Aaron?
Yeah, no, I think that it's good. Like you say, it's the sort of box fresh standard Berserker Warband that we're used to, with a couple of tweaks for some additional scoring. It looks like, and it's had some good matchups in there, some tight games throughout. So yeah, really well done to Ryan.
If anyone is watching World Eaters for the first, or watching this thinking, oh, I might actually start collecting World Eaters or something, this is probably the list to go out and get, because you will learn more about World Eaters with this list than I think any list really. Cool. And then I think, what is this my favorite list? I think it probably is, really. It's very cool.
It's my favorite, yeah.
Yeah, this is Stefan Sampson. He was a Berserker Warband. He went 6-0 at Geekfest in Nova Scotia. He has taken Aarron, Massive Executioners with a Berserker Glaive, 2x10 Jackals, 10 Berserkers and Rhino. Very similar so far to the last list. 3 8-bound, 3 Exalted, 6 Exalted, 2x2 Spawn, and then finally we've got the 2 Forge Fiends. And I think me and Aaron, we talked about this in Nottingham. I took a Forge Fiend in my Vessels list, and I found the Forge Fiend to be so useful. So useful. And I think, unfortunately, if you are taking World Eaters, I do think it's maybe if you're not accustomed to playing full melee lists or whatever, I think trying the shooting, adding some shooting into your list, will reward you more than if you didn't try it.
Yeah,
Is that
no,
fair
I
to
agree
say?
with it. Yeah, I know we had a big discussion on it on the drive back down from Nottingham, but I really like the Forge Fiends, and to be honest, for me personally, I've stopped using Aarron. I think the points are better used elsewhere. But I had Forge Fiends are, I think they're so multifaceted in they take care of transports for you. They take care of elite infantry for you.
Yeah.
Anything that's got -1 damage or half damage, it really helps in that aspect as well. But then I think one of the things I used it for in my last event was overwatching a Thousand Suns unit, which was going to jump onto a point and score, extend, get to, and I'm trying to remember the bloody name of the secondary now. The Capture No Man's Land one, where you got
Secure
two.
No Man's Land.
That's it, thank you. Secure No Man's Land and a cleanse.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
shooting them, and they failed the battle shock test afterwards.
That's
And just
the
stop still,
thing.
and it's having that little tech in there is really, really good. I think they're
Yeah,
absolutely good.
there's so many detachments that have fight on death as a stratagem, or maybe -1 damage, or -1 to hit, whatever. And actually, just touching them with a Forge Fiend beforehand, you never know. Don't get me wrong. I am a Tyranny player as well. Battle shock is not always going to happen, but you can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket. All of a sudden, you've battle shocked that unit. The rest of your turn is anxiety free as your guys just stop someone from interrupting or just batter them essentially, which is very cool. Stefan didn't have the easiest run here as well. He went into Death Guard, and don't get me wrong, there was a lot of weird stuff in that list, but Death Guard's probably the worst matchup for World Eaters that I've played into anyway, and it was a good win, 6-point win, so very good. Awakened Dynasty, which again is a lot of Necron players experimented with that away from Star Shatter. That was an 86-42, so again, solid win. Halo Creed Admech, which again, no joke of a detachment, 8064. Chaos Knights with two big ones. One of them was the Ultrapus, the one with the big spear.
Okay, yeah. The big spear, that's a lancer, isn't it? The
Mm,
Outrapus is like this huge one that's got massive laser destructors, I think.
Oh, I
But
don't know. Maybe it's that. Then. It was definitely. It definitely said Ultrapus or something like that.
yeah, I think that's the huge one. The guns are mental.
Ah, well, again, another low-scoring night game here, 63-36. But again, a solid win there. And then he went into, I mean, what the luckiest guy in the world, right? Although that said, this Slanesh list didn't. This Slanesh list had won 5 games, so I can't talk too harshly about it. No keepers of secrets in a Slanesh Demons list
There
feels
were
bananas.
close. It was a close game.
And
Five
it was
points
a
in.
close game, 68-63. I guess it was. I think it was 18 fiends and three. There was definitely three um, chariots in there. So it's there's still absolute spice. But mate, like, phew, I bet that was a belter of a game actually. Because again, you can prepare for keepers to an extent, but I mean that list is like a horde of wounds that can be moved all over the place.
Yeah, just two very, very quick armies that just want to slap each other in the face. I bet it was actually very good fun as well.
Yeah, and one of them's like, no, you fight first, and then you don't kill it, and then they get full rerolls to hit. And then, in a bizarre turn of events, a company of hunters detachment manages to win 5 games, and then it narrowly beats them to 52-50.
I don't even know what it does. I have no idea.
No,
I've
couldn't tell
never
you.
seen the Company of Hunters.
No, I've been told it's rubbish by Dark Angel's players, but this chap obviously did all right with it, or chapette, depending on I don't know who it was. But a 52-50 win, Stefan takes home the gold there. I imagine that also ran out of time.
Yeah, it looks like that would have been quite an intense movement style of game, but yeah, get 52-50. It must have. I'd be surprised if that got all the way to the end of round 5.
Yeah, that's a you're gonna win, mate. Handshake job maybe or something like that. But either way, Stefan won 6-0 with Berserker Warband. Well done to him. Awesome, very cool indeed. And that's it for this show, guys. We hope you've enjoyed it. Aaron, have you got any thoughts moving into Cherokee? Anything you're specifically excited about with taking World Eaters to that event?
Well, I think one of the things I'm most excited about is that I think day 2 is 3 games on Search and Destroy, so it's going to be right up close and personal.
Ooh, nice.
I think day 1 is 3 rounds on Tipping Point, so nice and close together, and it's going to be lots of hugs being given out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to taking out the Forge Fiends into like it's an 8-round event, so getting to see like a decent mix of armies to go into and get a bit more experience with the list. But yeah, I think it's looking well. I've gone Angron free, just like 6 units of 6 Exalted 8-bound because they obviously murder more than what Angron does. To be fair, I found them a lot better at taking down sort of big units as well as taking down like largest like high body count units. But yeah,
Yeah,
just
very
looking
good.
forward to getting out there, hopefully meet some people in the community, and just have a bit of fun really.
Nice. How many Forge Fiends? 2?
2, yeah.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
obviously not with the chain guns, right?
Yes, yeah.
Just double
Not
checking.
not the auto cannons, yeah,
No,
not
the
heavy.
all cannons, yeah.
Yeah, no, I've gone with the plasmas.
No,
Yeah,
very
they just
cool.
seem to answer a lot of the questions that I had with the list after I took it to Nottingham.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. They're just handy, and they scare the crap out of people as well. And of course, one of the things we haven't mentioned actually is GW teasing that we'll be getting a book later on in the year. So maybe if you'd be so kind to grace us with your presence next time, Aaron, we could be talking about the new potentially teasers on what units we're going to be getting. Let's hope
Yeah.
it's not cavalry.
Well, what do you think it's going to be?
It can't be anything else but cavalry. I think it could be red butchers, which would be quite cool. I would be happy with that.
What do you hope it is?
What do I hope it is? Yeah, red butchers, I'd say.
See, I hope it's not Red Butchers because I don't see what they give you as another unit. It's like what are they doing at 8-bound aren't doing.
From a design space point of view, right? That's the tricky thing, right? Because you've got 8-bound, which are fast, almost as tough as a Terminator anyway, or pretty much as tough as a Terminator anyway. So like that's that thing done. Here's what I think Terminators do, right? I don't know the law, but what I've been told is that Red Butchers also have flamers. So quite a cool idea is a Terminator unit that has flamers. I think that could be the design space that they take up. That'd be very interesting. And
If they
then
all had flamers, I guess, yeah, maybe makes
something
it a
like
bit
that
different.
would be. I mean, that what a vibe that would be. That's where I think the cavalry is a bit rubbish because they don't. They're fast, but they're 8 pound, but they're strong, or maybe they hit harder than 8 pound. I don't know, but they have to go around walls. It just sucks. Like
Yeah, they're gonna be berserkers, aren't they? They'll be berserk. If they're cavalry, it should be berserkers on
yeah, it'll be
Junkers.
berserkers. No, that's what I'm saying. It'll be berserkers on these things, but in terms of design space, they're just going to be fast moving things that hit hard, which is what exalted and normal 8 pound are.
Or are you gonna get nothing new, and it's just gonna be the chaos, the corn demons folded in, and that's where your extra units are.
Maybe. I mean, they're talking about the what is it called? Like their apothecary. I can't think what it's called now. Medic or I can't think what it's called.
Yeah, the butcher or something. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, that'd be a
Like
nice new
point
new
surgeon.
character. Would be quite
Berserker
cool.
third?
That would be quite a cool. That would be quite a cool addition. But if all you got was one character, and you look over like somewhat enviously at T Sons and Death Guard and go, but look at all their units. They've got tanks and everything.
See, I think. Well, do you know what I'd like?
Go on.
I'd like jump pack berserkers.
It would be cool, right? It would be cool. But again, that's you're just breaking the game, aren't you?
No, because like berserkers don't hit too hard. Like, and it just gives you a different aspect. It's a mobile trading unit, or so they can move around quickly.
Is it not a berserker unit?
Berserkers move 6.
+2 move with advance and charge?
Yeah, but you move then 14 with a jump pack.
Yeah. What about this? What about this? A different variant of Jackal, right? That maybe has infiltrate, or I don't know, maybe has a heavy weapon, or I don't know, like a heavy gun weapon. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe you'll get some corn beastmen.
Corn Beastman would be sick. That'd be pretty interesting.
Just
And
like, I know like, the Felgor guys have got infiltrate or scout, one of them.
they can come in from reserve turn 1. Is it? Is that what they do in
It might
CSM?
be.
I think so. I can't remember, but yeah, no, interesting. Well, watch this space, guys. All that conjecture. Tell us what you think in the comments. That'd be really cool. Right. Well, thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time for Bloodwatch. Have a good one, guys, and best of luck to Aarron at Cherokee.
Cool. See you later. Thank you.